It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Purdue assistant coach, Terry Rooney. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started coaching in college baseball?
Yeah, for sure. I was really very fortunate actually. When I got done playing throughout my college career, my college coach was ran a baseball camp, which is called Best in Virginia Baseball Camp. A gentleman by the name of Scott Gines, and at that time, in the early '90s, that was the number one really showcase camp in the country, and certainly the East Coast. And a lot of college coaches worked that camp. I mean, it was a who's who up and down the East Coast of college baseball of the coaches who worked it. And I knew I wanted to get into college coaching. So for a summer, I worked those two camps, and I was the only college kid there that had the opportunity to work it. So I was meeting everybody. And then once I got done playing, I was extremely fortunate right away to get a job at George Washington University. I grew up in Northern Virginia. Tom Walter, who is now the head coach at Wake Forest, was the coach at George Washington. And, I think at the time, Tom was about 27, 28. I was about 23, 24. And one of my best friends, Joe Rakuya, who ended up being the head coach at our alma mater, Radford, was also the assistant coach there. So, again, very fortunate to involved, in college coaching right away through the camps in the Best of Virginia showcase, and then obviously to have the opportunity to be at George Washington University right away. As we know, it's hard to get into college coaching, and to do it immediately upon graduating from school, I was very fortunate.
What was that like going to Radford to play baseball and getting to put on the uniform for them?
It was great. It was great. I loved my experience at Radford. Great coaches, great people. I actually transferred there from a Division II school, Davis and Elkins College in West Virginia, is where I transferred from. But I was from Virginia, Northern Virginia, extremely fortunate. And I think now that I'm in coaching, really I think you should be in coaching for one main reason. That's to impact the lives of young kids. And I was very fortunate. Again, my college coach, Scott Gines, who was there for the majority of my career, had a huge impact on me. And really what he did was, he instilled so much confidence in me. He made me believe I was so much better than I really was. And that's something that to this day, 25, 26 years later, I hope that I can do for our guys.
What were some of your collegiate accomplishments playing baseball?
Not much. I was okay. I was a soft toss and left-handed pitcher, but who pitched in a lot of games. I think I had was in the top few of appearances probably, if I can say anything regarding my career. But I was just from a talent standpoint very average, but loved it, and was very lucky to play Division I baseball.
Coming out of college, what was that experience like going to George Washington?
It was awesome. Like I said, it was great. I just knew I wanted to coach. I knew I wasn't going to probably have the opportunity to play professional baseball. I just really just didn't throw hard enough. And right away, I was sending letters out right after college. I mean, trying to get into college summer leagues. And as soon as I graduated, I got a job in the Valley Baseball League, which is one of the top 3 or 4 baseball summer leagues in the country. And here's a guy, 22 years old, just got finished playing, coaching kids his age. And then right after that, I actually I said got to George Washington. Was really lucky. I mean, went there and again was with guys working with Tom Walter, who's now the head coach of Wake Forest, Joe Rakuya, who he himself went on to the SEC at Alabama, Marist and Radford University. So I think I was so fortunate not only to just get into Division I baseball right away, but to work with an outstanding group of guys.
What was that experience like coaching at George Washington to then help you to go to James Mason?
Yeah, well, I did. I've moved around a lot, all these different stops. But again, it's all about the people. I went from George Washington to James Madison. And again, at the time, my connection there was with Todd Raleigh. Todd Raleigh at the time was the recruiting coordinator, hitting coach at James Madison. He and I just, developed a very good bond and friendship on the road recruiting. And although he was not there very long from when I was there because he left as soon as I got there, but that was the connection. And, Todd himself, went on to become the head coach at Western Carolina and the head coach at Tennessee. So again, my first, 2 or 3 years in college baseball, I'm working with guys, again, who end up being head coaches at Wake Forest, head coach at, Western Carolina, head coach at Tennessee. So just really lucky to be around the people I was around.
What was that experience like going to Notre Dame and getting to compete with Notre Dame?
Yeah, Notre Dame was great. Again, I know there's a lot of moments, I think, when you look at your career, and that was a big moment for me. I was at, after leaving James Madison, I went to Old Dominion and then Stetson. And again, I worked for two Hall of Fame coaches, and Tony Guzzo and Pete Dunn. I mean, these are guys that, won, I think almost over 1,000 games each, Hall of Famers. And here's, a young coach to work for these guys. I learned so much. But to go from Stetson, which I loved, we had two 40-win season there, back-to-back regionals, but to work, for Paul Mainieri, at Notre Dame was a dream come true. I mean, I'm proud to say that, Paul Mainieri is my mentor, somebody that, we worked together for 5 years. Worked together for 5 years. And, he's made just an unbelievable impact on me. Coach Mainieri not only taught me baseball, but what it was and what it meant to run a program and see it and treat people the right way. But Notre Dame was great, and to be honest with you, it's more than just baseball there. When I went there, we were there for 3 years, and I met my wife there, and she was working at Notre Dame for Adidas and Notre Dame sports properties. We got married in South Bend. So obviously it's a very, special place for me. But again, those 3 years at Notre Dame I think were crucial, to my coaching career, to my coaching development. And again, we had 3 great years there. We won 3 Big East championships, went to 3 straight NCAA regionals, hosted a regional. And again, got a chance to work alongside Coach Mainieri and one of my best friends, Cliff Godwin, who is now at, obviously at East Carolina. He and I met there. And work together there. So Notre Dame was certainly an opportunity I'll always be appreciative for. And then again, to work for Coach Mainieri, one of the greatest college baseball coaches of all time was fantastic.
How was your experience like getting to go to LSU and become the assistant coach and get to go to the College World Series?
Yeah, it was great. Obviously, it was great. To go from obviously to go from Notre Dame to LSU again. I mean, Coach Mainieri is the reason behind it. For some reason, he saw something in me and took a liking to me, and I'm sure there's many days I don't know why he did. What I mean? But again, I owe so much to him. Again, one of the greatest coaches and just greatest people in person and men I've ever met. I really, to this day, when I'm in coaching and I'm thinking about whether it's working with our players or recruiting or anything, even outside of it, I find myself daily, I really, asking myself, what would Paul do? What would Paul do? He was so great with people in managing situations and managing players. I tell you, to have him as a resource and a friend and a mentor is incredible. But obviously, LSU is great. People some things don't realize it. When we got to LSU our first year, we didn't even make the SEC tournament. You can believe it. It was myself and Cliff Godwin. We both left Notre Dame to go with Paul to LSU, and I remember when Cliff and I got there. I mean, we didn't even make the SEC tournament. So the big thing I remember in that year, great kids though. Great guys there, great group, still close to them, but. The one thing I'll always remember about our first year there at LSU is there's a lot of things. The opportunity to get to be around Skip Bertman. He was Coach Bertman was the athletic director at LSU when I was there, and again took a liking to me. Used to talk pitching with him all the time. So my experience there was invaluable. But at LSU, again we didn't make the SEC tournament our first year. But one thing I'll always remember about that is about halfway through. our first weekend in the SEC, I remember I told Paul, we need to get recruiting, and I was doing the pitching and calling pitches, and but a lot of the guys, are playing on weekends, so I missed a good amount of that second half. But it was great group of guys. We loved Baton Rouge, but the great thing there, I think, is that in that team in our 07 team, we didn't make the SEC tournament. The next year, we went to Omaha in the College World Series, and so that turnaround in a year time, I think we all take great pride in that. In the recruits that we brought in. And I tell you, that place was really special to me, not just because it was LSU and arguably, the greatest college program in college baseball, but I think it was just the guys that we had there. It was, I swear I was only there 2 years, but it seemed like I was there like 10 years. I mean, honestly, because of the relationships of those guys. And I think because it's such a special team, we went to Omaha. The guys that were recruited there was the number one recruiting class in the country, but it's just so many just guys that I went to a wedding a couple years ago and see them, and I stay in touch with a lot of those guys still, and that was you got a lot of special teams, but I will tell you the '08 LSU team, those guys were an incredible, resilient group of guys, and what a wide range of personalities, and I think all of that together is what made it so great. So obviously it was hard to leave there, but those were 2 years that I'll never forget, and very, very appreciative that I had the opportunity to work there. And again, with so many great guys, Will Davis was there, now the head coach at Lamar, and Javi Sanchez, one of my great friends, Cliff Godwin, Paul Maneri, and even all the strength coaches there, Tommy Moffitt and Bo Lowry, our trainer. It was a special, special time there. But again, I can't say enough about the impact that Paul Maneri has had on me in my career.
As a coach at LSU, what was that experience like getting to go to the College World Series for the first time as a coach?
Yeah, it was great. It was great. I mean, you can't say anything more than that. I mean, your first opportunity to get to Omaha was unbelievable. And, for me, it was kind of even more special, really, within a 24-hour period. It was arguably, I tell my wife, maybe besides the day I got married and I had my daughter, when she was born, that might have been the greatest, top 3 days of my life. In a 24-hour period, I had our press conference where I was named the head coach at UCF, and I left the press conference in Orlando to jump a plane from Orlando to Omaha. So in 24 hours, I was named the head coach at UCF, and then jumped on a plane to Omaha to go to the College World Series. So that was a pretty good day right there for sure. But again, just an awesome opportunity. Very thankful for it. A great group of guys, and something that I'll never forget.
Of course, during your time at UCF, what was that like experience, that first time head coaching experience?
It was awesome. It was awesome. It's something I'll never take back. I'll never take back, and it's something that I'm extremely glad that I did. 8 great years in Orlando, 8 great years at UCF. Can't say enough about it. The people that were there, the coaches we were with, and the players that were there. And again, just a special time. First head coaching job. My daughter was born there in Orlando, when you get there, I can tell you, honestly, I actually wasn't looking to be a head coach. I had arguably, the best assistant job in America at LSU. I was the associate head coach and pitching coach and recruiting coordinator. I was kind of very lucky that Paul let me do so many things. And so I really wasn't looking to leave and be a head coach, but obviously the opportunity to go to UCF with the great tradition that they had there was awesome. And listen, we had 8 great years there. I'm very proud of, within 3 years, we had I think we had a top 10 recruiting class in the country, and within 4 years, we went to back-to-back regionals there. So really, very, very, very fortunate for that. And again, that first recruiting class that we brought in, to UCF, that was just a really special group of guys that not only great players, a bunch of guys played pro ball, some big leaguers in there, but it was our first class, and so it was I only have just favorable, great memories of my time there. But it's about the people. Anywhere you go, it's about the people. But in Orlando, just the kids there were awesome. The administration was great. People like Keith Tribble, David Hanson. We had so many great athletic directors there. But the other thing too, I take just a lot of pride in is the people that we worked with there. The assistant coaches, and who many of them are now our head coaches. that we had a chance to work with there. So many of them to name, but again, several of them are now head coaches, Division I head coaches, and I'm really happy for them and glad it's worked out. But again, UCF was this great place, special place, I was kind of at the end there. My last few years there, I just kind of made a decision that I wanted to get back to doing kind of the reason I got into coaching, is relationships, the impact of lives of young kids. And if there was an opportunity, to get back, perhaps in the SEC, I was going to look at, and obviously that led to the transition to Alabama and my great relationship with Coach Goff.
What was that experience like going to Alabama and then becoming an associate head coach, but then during that time being the interim head coach?
Yeah, it was great. Obviously, I mean, I keep talking about people, and the best thing that happened to me going to Alabama was having this and developing this relationship with Greg Goff. I can tell you, as I say that the impact that Paul Maneri's had on me, Greg Goff has had very similar. I tell people all the time he's one of the greatest coaches I've ever seen in any sport and been around. His ability to motivate the kids, his knowledge of the game. It's really interesting. We didn't even really know each other, kind of knew of each other. And I was a head coach. So I think a lot of people didn't think I was going to leave there, but it wasn't about titles or anything for me. I love recruiting. I love doing the pitching, and those are things that have really, right away from when I got into coaching, are things that I loved. I mean, some people, it's they like different areas of it. I liked it all, you know what I mean? But I love recruiting and I love doing the pitching. So the chance to really get back in the SEC, at that time was something that was really intriguing. And then, the relationship, that I had there, with Coach Goff, and obviously we have it now being back here and working for him at Purdue, something great. You don't always have opportunities. You work with people, but you always have people that you can call friends and people that you can count on. And Coach Goff is somebody that I know I can count on. I hope he feels like he can count on me, and somebody that that I have an enormous amount of respect for. So obviously our time at Alabama, we weren't there for a long time, but certainly glad it made the move. It's led to this great relationship, and we have a lot of great people there. And even on a personal note, it's to be in a college town is awesome. That's something that we really look forward to. Again, my wife and I, we met in South Bend and had a chance to move around. So that was a great experience, glad I did it. And obviously that's led me, I had to stop in Texas, which was great too, but obviously it's led me back with Coach Goff here at Purdue.
While at Alabama, what was that like getting to coach against some of those teams like LSU, who you formerly coached against, and Florida and Georgia?
Yeah, no, it was good. It was good. I mean, there's no question. It was, again, it was great to be back in that league, and to be around those people and a lot of friends. And I think the big thing is that when you talk about coaching, especially at this level, at the Power Five, whether it's the Big Ten or the SEC or really anywhere, recruiting is just like a game. I mean, you got to love it. And I think anybody, it doesn't matter the sport. When you're at the upper echelon of collegiate athletics, you better love recruiting, but it's not just doing it. You better love the challenge of it. You better love the competitive side of recruiting. And I think the best recruiters in the country, obviously you got to work. You obviously got to have a passion for it. I think recruiting is about the follow-up. It's not just making the phone call. I think it's even above that. But I think more so, the higher the level you go up, I think it's the competitive side. Like you have to love to compete in recruiting. And that's something I love to do. I like that. I like the challenge of it, and I in all aspects of it. So I think that was an exciting part of of getting back there. When we went to Alabama, and again, we had a great we weren't there very long, but it's a great experience. I'm glad we did it, and again, it's led me to here the situation where I am with Coach.
What has that been like, obviously coming to Purdue with having 2 head coaching experiences under your belt?
Well, I've only had one. I just my only head coach was when I was at UCF, but I was the associate head coach at LSU in Alabama. But I mean, it's been great. I think that you take your experiences everywhere. I think this is I'm sitting here in my office and I see a bunch of baseballs over there. A gift my wife got me for all the schools I've worked at, and I think this is my 10th school, believe it or not. And but what you do is you take the experiences of everywhere you've been. And I'm extremely fortunate that all my experiences have been positive. I mean, there's something really positive in every aspect. I mean, you alluded to some of the ones earlier in my career. And I think with the experience I've had, the biggest thing I take away are the people that I've had a chance to work with and the players I've had a chance to be around. I mean, that is the truth. You should, for me, I go back to this, as you alluded to, how I got to, like, with Paul Maneri, and I'll always remember this. Coach Maneri, I didn't even know him, and he, Brian O'Connor is now the head coach at the University of Virginia, who obviously has done an incredible job. But I took Oak's job, when he left to go to Virginia. That's who I replaced at Notre Dame. And long story short, Oak asked me if I'd be interested in the job, and I said yes. And I remember Coach Maneri. I met with him in Atlanta, Georgia. He flew down there, and we had dinner. And the first question he asked me, he goes, "Why did you get into coaching?" Like, right off the bat, And I said, "Why did you get into coaching?" And I told him, I said, I got into coaching to impact the lives of young kids. That to me, that was it. I was fortunate to be around great coaches who I think instilled in me a confidence and a work ethic that allowed me to believe that I was better than I was. And you want to make the impact on those kids. And I think from my experiences, I think that I've had, the biggest thing I take away from that is the people, is the kids, and it's about the players. It's not about anything else other than that. There's no baseball team anywhere you go unless it's the student athletes, their experience. And I think as I've gotten older, where I can tell you that my competitiveness to win has never changed, because you don't put, all coaches in all sports, you interview a lot of people. You don't put the hours in, you don't make the sacrifices away from your family and do all these things unless it's about winning. A part of it's about winning. I mean, there's no point in, it's about making positive impacts on kids and their experience as a whole and what they're doing. That's why you should be doing it. But I also don't apologize for wanting to win. That's part of the deal. And certainly coaching at this level of collegiate athletics, that is part of it, that I think you can do both. I think you can have the balance of having kids enjoy the experience and helping them develop. In recruiting, I tell people it's about two things baseball wise, about development and winning. You want to go somewhere you're going to develop and hopefully put yourself in position, to have aspirations to play professional baseball, number one, and number two, places you're going to win. So those are things that you hope along the way, that in the things that you're trying to instill in these kids, that they learn the things that'll help them later in life. But and again, that was the thing I get, that Coach Maneri asked me. The first question was, "Why'd you get into coaching?" And I told him that, and fortunately, it was the right answer, because that's, obviously several years later, that's it. And that's what's led me here. The experience of being with Coach Goff, a few years ago has led me to this. And again, I've had a great 4 years at the University of Houston, and Todd Whitting was fantastic. And again, we had some great success there and went to regionals. And Todd Whitting was fantastic. I learned a lot from him. He was unbelievably great to myself and my family, and I'll always be so appreciative of what he did for my wife and my daughter and I. And but to come here to Purdue, which is awesome. I think the ceiling is unbelievably high here. I think everything is moving the right direction. Coach Goff is a program builder everywhere he's been: Montevallo, Campbell, Louisiana Tech, and he's doing it here. And I think you can see, everybody knows the strides that we are making here, and everything that we have here. An incredible academic university, in the Big Ten, in a great college town. We have all the resources here. So I think you take all of those experiences together and try to put the kids that you have the ability to coach and the opportunity to coach in the best positions to be successful.
While at Purdue, where have been some of your biggest accomplishments?
Well, I mean, this is my second year here, and the last 2 years I've been the recruiting coordinator. Did not do the pitching last year, which is the first time in actually my 25 years of coaching that I didn't do it, and that was a great thing. Sometimes when you step away from something, sometimes you can see it in a different light. In all aspects professionally. So I think last year was the first year that I worked with catchers. I think I always worked with catchers a little bit, because as a pitching coach, you're always touching them and talking to them in different areas, from a coaching standpoint. But the big thing last year was recruiting, to get out there. And I was on the road in the spring. I mean, geez, it seemed like every day, but the majority of times to try to build a roster for this current year. So I think, like I said, last year, again, got back in the Big Ten tournament. Guys that had a great year, and so far, obviously we're just in the middle of the season, but things are continuing to move in a great direction.
What has it been like, obviously, getting to coach in the Big Ten and getting to coach against some of those teams like Ohio State and Michigan?
Yeah, Big Ten's great. I'll tell you, again, I think my 26th year in college, I've coached in a lot of different leagues, and we were talking about the SEC and Conference USA or the American, and just unbelievable great leagues. And this last year is my first year, coaching in the Big Ten, and it's awesome. It's a great league. Obviously, it's one of the Power Five leagues, one of the top five baseball leagues in the country. But to get a chance to go to these places, a lot of these places, I've never been. I've been, on the East Coast and the South, and have a chance to play a lot, whether it's Arizona or the West Coast. So this is the last 2 years been my first time, obviously I was at Notre Dame being in Indiana, but to play a lot of these Big Ten teams, it's great. Just look up and down the Big Ten. You see great coaches, great rosters, the track record for development, in the Big Ten, and the resources also are fantastic. This is the best of the best of collegiate athletics in this league. And you see great college town, great academic universities, but just great resources everywhere we've been. You look at facilities, you look at the coaching records, you look at the records for development throughout this entire league. It's great. And I think, again, it looks like another great year for this league in college baseball.
What is that home game atmosphere like in Purdue?
Man, it's awesome. It's awesome. All you got to do is you see it. I think the now that the weather is turning really, really nice here last week for a midweek game, I think they said we had about 2,000 people and over 600 students. So the atmosphere is great. I know I alluded to it earlier, but that's what this is. West Lafayette is a college town, and you see that a lot. You talk about in the Big Ten. There's a lot of college towns, so this is the big game in town. The Purdue athletics, but it's not just baseball. You look at it, and it's every sport here. I remember this fall, our soccer team, and actually our soccer team was the first sporting event I went to 2 years ago, and again, a couple thousand people there for their first game in the fall. They went to the NCAA tournament 2 years ago also. So everybody's great here. You look at it collectively, all the sports are very well supported, whether it's baseball or the softball and the volleyball and soccer, and obviously basketball, ranked as high as number one, and our football going to a bowl game. So the atmosphere for all of our sports here is fantastic. But baseball, if anybody hasn't been, you can see our facility. It's incredible. It's awesome. It's a beautiful facility, and obviously the crowd is continuing to grow.
What is that like, obviously, playing Ohio State at home?
Well, it's good. We actually so far we just played Penn State this past weekend, where we are in the Big Ten. So we're right in the middle of it. But again, all great programs. The Big Ten has got great, baseball programs with a lot of success and really a lot of tradition. That when you get a chance to see, I always say all the time, it's, the resources have to match the expectations. That's a term I used to, I talk about a lot. And you see the resources, throughout the Big Ten at all the different facilities, and particularly here at Purdue, the facility that we have and the support that we have to be one of the best programs in the country. We feel like we're on our way to continue to do that.
What does that recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes looking to come to Purdue?
Well, listen, obviously, not speaking specific, but we feel like that, Purdue, not just baseball, but all sports, we offer one of the best packages, I think, in the entire country. That you're talking about, nationally ranked athletics with nationally ranked academics, and that's one of the great things that Purdue has to offer. It's a package of both that you get the best of the best. Sometimes you maybe have to feel like you have to sacrifice one or the other, athletically or academically, but here you don't have to do either.
Of course, what does that official visit look like for those prospects coming to Purdue to play baseball?
Well, I don't talk too much about that. You mean individually, but it's a good, again, it's good. We try to, I think the big thing is that, when you're recruiting kids, you want them to have the entire experience, whether it's a visit, whether it's a recruitment process, we try to, tell everybody this is who we are. And I think in recruiting, a lot of times people get caught up in the cell, so to speak. It's not as much in the cell as just presenting what it is. This is what we are, and we hope you like it. And at Purdue, what Purdue has, again, is one of the best packages in the country in national ranked baseball and national ranked academics and national ranked athletics.
As an assistant coach, what is it like seeing those players get to put on that Purdue jersey as freshmen versus their senior year?
Yeah, it's great. You kind of, see the fruits of your labor, so to speak. And the rewards of it. A lot of times in recruiting, recruiting is so, in all sports now, I know that you talk to, it's so it's wide. And what I mean by that is, it's, although they actually just recently passed some new NCAA recruiting rules for college baseball, but up until now, I mean, you could be, having some type of, dialogue or, at least evaluating or beginning the recruiting process to some degree with freshmen in high school, all the way to 23-year-old graduate transfer. So it's quite the spectrum, and it's different than it was even 4, 5, 6 years ago. So it is different, but obviously it's great, when you start from the beginning to the end, of the recruiting process, and it's different. And I enjoy that. It is different. You could be, dealing with high school kids, and again, all the way up to graduate transfers. Everybody wants different things. And I think that's the whole key, is getting kids to understand, what they're looking for and what's important to them. And therefore, then you hope it's the match. I mean, what they have, I say all the time as a coach, if it's important to me, it's got to be important to you. It's kind of similar in the recruiting process. What kids are looking for, you're trying to find, what that best match is.
As a coach, what is it like seeing those players go on to the MLB after their collegiate career?
It's awesome. You want all kids to have the aspirations to play professional baseball. It's not in the cards for everybody, but that should be a goal, and I will tell you, in the recruiting process, I don't apologize for that, in talking about that. I think the best players, in the country, as I said before, they want two things. Number one, they want to go somewhere they're going to develop and hopefully put themselves in position to play professional baseball. And number two, they want to go somewhere they're going to win. I mean, those are the two things that from just a pure baseball standpoint, that kids want. They want a chance to have the opportunity to do both. And we certainly feel like, they can do that here. But obviously for kids to see those guys to move on into professional baseball, to achieve their dreams is great. To see somebody get a chance to make it to the major leagues, is even better. And, you never, when you recruit kids, you think sometimes, they're going to get there. You hope they're going to get there, all of them, but you never know, and, I've been very fortunate. I've had, a decent amount of guys, who have made it to the major leagues, and it's an awesome when they get a chance to do that, and, to receive the text message or the call or whatever, whatever it might be from them is great. So, and again, it goes back to why you get into coaching. You want kids to, to achieve their goals and dreams.
What are some of your future plans at Purdue moving forward?
Well, I mean, the future plan is kind of living the right now. I mean, at the moment, obviously, we're currently right in the middle of our Big Ten play, and looking to continue that, and finish strong like everybody is in college baseball.
What advice would you give those collegiate athletes that are entering their first year of collegiate baseball?
Well, I think for anybody, it's when you get into college, it's about developing a routine, finding the things that work for you, and adapting. I think anybody will tell you time management is the key for all student athletes, at any level. But at the same time, too, is I try to, even as a coach, remind myself that they're here for a reason. They're here because you recruit them because, number one, they're great people. Number two, they're great students, and number three, obviously, they're great athletes and they're great baseball players. And you always want to make sure that, even in coaching, I talk about that, you want to make sure you maintain their strengths, but improve upon their weaknesses. And you don't always want to, just from a athletic standpoint, work so much exclusively on their weaknesses or what they got to get better at, and forget what got them there. What got them there is usually is great athleticism, a great talent, and a great competitive spirit. You want to make sure that you're continuing to do that.
What advice would you give those players that are looking to play professionally, whether it's the MLB?
Yeah, I think my advice is to continue to push. I mean, and try to do everything you can. If that's a goal of yours and that's a dream of yours, to continue to do that. Again, the percentages say it's certainly a hard road, but who cares? I mean, that doesn't matter. Again, I've said it, we want everybody to have that, perspective. I talk about, telescope, microscope. I was just talking to one of our guys about that today, where of course to be successful in anything, you got to work day to day and look at the microscope, and this is what I need to accomplish today. But there's got to be a telescope too. There has to be something driving you, to work hard and to be diligent in that process every day. It's not just a matter, at least in my opinion, it's not just a matter of showing up and working hard and having a good attitude. I mean, you got to have those things. That's a prerequisite to being successful. But at the same time, there's got to be something to pushing you, and the aspirations to play professional baseball and play in the major leagues. We want that to be everybody's dream. I mean, professional scouts showing up here, seeing you play all the time. So my advice is to keep working. A term we use around here is that achievers are the exception. They're not the norm. So, if you want to be the exception and put yourself in position to be a draft pick and potentially get to the major leagues, you're going to have to work hard, every single day.
What advice would you give those future college coaches, whether they're assistant coaches or head coaches, looking to coach in college baseball?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's not easy to get into college coaching, but it's kind of the same advice, to stay with it. And I think the big thing, that I used to say, and it's kind of a broad, I guess, term of saying it, but workers are winners, winners are workers, so to speak. And even when I was a head coach, you always want to be around people that number one, that they work, right? There's nothing replaces that. The ability, a strong work ethic. I really believe that nothing replaces that. And number two, people want to be around people that win. I think there's something to be said for that. It's all relative to what degree of winning, where you are and those kinds of things. But I think those are two big things. You want to be around people that work. You want to be around people that win. And usually those two things go hand in hand. So, I think for people that are looking to get into, collegiate baseball, yeah, I mean, there's the one thing is, yeah, it's a tough road, but at the same time, it's the same as anywhere. You got to start off in some positions that maybe it's not about, where you are at that moment, it's where you're trying to get to. The good thing is that in college baseball, certainly in Division I, there are more positions now. Obviously this next year they're going to 3 paid assistants. There's director of operations positions, there's director of player development, different types of positions available out there. So there's a lot of opportunities. Just be persistent as you can in trying to make your way in.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with the Purdue baseball program at?
Yeah, for sure. You can find, obviously Purdue baseball is what it is. It's Purdue baseball on all the different social medias, and mine is I'm on Twitter. That's probably my biggest one. Is Coach T Rooney, TROONEY. Try to keep that account as active as I possibly can. Promoting the program and all that it is. But again, Coach T Rooney is what I have on Twitter right now.
Thank you again, Terry Rooney, for your interview, and best of luck in your future at Purdue as the assistant baseball coach.
Brent, thank you so much, man, for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Twitter at talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Terry Rooney, for your interview. And best
You've
of luck
been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.